MrBeast cured 1,000 people's blindness, and some mentally deficient individuals hate his guts for it. He makes millions per video, reinvests it all back into the Beast content machine, and people think he pockets those millions. Some people claim that he doesn't really help people because of tax write-offs and benefits, and it's understandable that he is getting hate not because it's valid criticism, but because he's the biggest YouTuber with a network of channels that someone offered to buy for $1 billion.
You've been offered $1 billion for your YouTube channel.
With all the companies, yeah.
Which means he is literally a billionaire. But to understand the source of all the hate, we need to go back to MrBeast's roots. He started out a teenager just wanting to become big on YouTube, looking up to creators like PewDiePie and many others who were mainstream at the time. He went through the gaming phase not getting many views, and then decided to take it seriously when his mum gave him an ultimatum: either go to college and get a degree, or drop out and get out of the house. He bought himself some time by doing what his mum wanted, going to college, but instead of going to lectures, he was constantly thinking about how he was going to make YouTube work. After a long time of constant grinding, he eventually had success with YouTube, starting with his video giving out $10,000 in sponsorship money to a random homeless person. Clearly, people loved content involving money and giving out a ton of it, and MrBeast continued using this formula in every video he did. He donated to famous Twitch streamers to reach their audiences, like Ninja, who was huge at the time thanks to Fortnite, and PewDiePie, who was still incredibly mainstream thanks to the T-Series drama. Twitch streamers, pizza delivery drivers, more homeless people, and even waitresses. He mixed this with crazy challenges like the world record for the longest Uber ride, stopping a bullet with paper, or destroying his friend's car and gifting him a new one. All of these challenges were brought to the attention of millions of people thanks to the almighty algorithm, and MrBeast had finally found what worked. He carried the crazy challenges on, and YouTube carried on the crazy views, bringing him to over 100 million subscribers just 8 months ago. So why are we even covering this? Well, MrBeast's business model is centered around giving normal people a ton of money and filming it to make a ton of money back. Most people are totally fine with this, as who wouldn't let someone put them in a YouTube challenge video for the chance to win $500,000, but some people think he's a hypocrite, calling him out and saying that if he was genuine, he would give money away and never talk about or record it. Clearly, this logic is flawed, and people have been crying about this for years, but it got kind of heated recently with not one, but two major controversies around MrBeast's philanthropy. On the 28th of January 2023, MrBeast would go on to make a video titled 1,000 Blind People See for the First Time, in which he'd cured the deteriorating eyesight of 1,000 people. Now notice how I didn't say he cured their blindness, because whilst they were unable to see at the time, they had eyesight to begin with, and MrBeast paid for something called cataract surgery, and in the most simple terms, it involves swapping out the natural lenses of our eyes for an artificial one, and it's done because the natural lenses we're born with get clouded sometimes, making it nearly impossible to see anything. It can be important for someone with the influence of MrBeast to educate where he can when it comes to topics like these, because some people will now believe that we can actually cure blindness while we're years and years away from that technology, and in fairness, MrBeast did mention the word sight restoring in the description of his video. Now, after restoring the eyesight of so many people, MrBeast received a ton of positive messages and comments, with people saying he's an amazing human being and leveraged his success for the good of hundreds of people. But like everything on the internet, not everyone saw it the same way, and some called him out on TikTok, YouTube, and of course the cesspit that is known as Twitter, where everyone thinks they're the reincarnation of God himself. One person said he exploits the downtrodden for clicks, and another said when you film a good deed it becomes a selfish act in their opinion, and there are hundreds of tweets like this from those with not a shred of influence the size or scale that MrBeast has. Many of these people believe that because he's filming it, it cancels out the fact that he restored 1,000 people's vision and he's somehow profiting tenfold from uploading the video. So let's figure it out then. If we assume that MrBeast's CPM is around $2 for YouTube AdSense, that means his video getting 100 million views will make him around $200,000, and the cost of cataract surgery can be as much as $10,000 per person, which means on the surface he likely lost $9.8 million on that surgery. Maybe you can claim that he got a discount on the surgeries, and he probably did, but he still very clearly lost money on that video. Oh, hang on, I hear you say he has sponsors as well, and he probably made millions on them. And yes, you'd be right, he probably did make millions, but the most high-paying sponsors MrBeast has will only be paying around $15 per 1,000 views. That means he may have ended up with about $1.7 million in income from a video that could have cost him as much as $10 million to make. He without a doubt lost money here on this video, but on top of that, he has always maintained that he reinvests all money made from his videos back into creating more, and there's no evidence at all to suggest that this is not true. As for his response to this situation, situation, MrBeast sums it up perfectly here. Twitter, rich people should help others with their money. Me, okay, I'll use my money to help people and I promise to give away all my money before I die, every single penny. Twitter, MrBeast bad. Frankly, I'm inclined to agree with this. MrBeast has based his entire business and ecosystem on helping others and people still criticize him for it, even though they could never do better themselves. They say he profits from philanthropy and therefore that cancels out the good deed, but he only has the money to give away because he runs this business. If he didn't garner millions of views and make millions of dollars, he wouldn't generate any AdSense revenue or sponsorship cash, and he wouldn't be able to give homeless people money or pay for people's surgery. The largest and most important factor surrounding this controversy is that these holier-than-thou brokies, as a particular bald man would call them, forget that MrBeast reinvests his profits when he does make them into creating even better content, which means even more money for the people he helps out. He even has a literal YouTube channel dedicated to philanthropy, which fully funds its charitable services through YouTube and sponsorship revenue. Sadly though, this isn't the only time people have gone into a hissy fit over MrBeast philanthropy. Not long after the eyesight restoration video, MrBeast gave away 20,000 shoes to children in Africa so they could go to school, and somehow this became an act of the devil. Some claim that it was destroying the local shoemaking business, which I think is leaving zero regard for the children who cannot afford those shoes, and the South African who posted this recommended that MrBeast give away money instead, which he also does.
I thought it'd be fun to give you $10,000 just as a show of appreciation.
Another person commented defending MrBeast, saying what he's done has helped a lot of kids, and another person of pure morals and actions replies, the person is just referring to macro socioeconomic phenomena, and this seems to be the go-to argument for MrBeast haters. Another person said, these videos probably harm more people than helping them in the long run, as he's not undoing the conditions that caused these issues in the first place, and to that I say,
stop it. Get some help.
The post continues by saying he's helping a few people one at a time, even though he has an entire channel dedicated to philanthropy and helping those less fortunate. The part I find the most preposterous is the idea that a white man is what is needed to save Africa is how we justify the remnants of colonialism in the modern day. So only people of color should help people of color, and if a white man helps those of other races, then he's a colonizer. Even though the rich YouTuber is helping, it doesn't matter because the leaders we elect into power continue to run the world with capitalism, and that's MrBeast's fault. Therefore, he of course shouldn't give poor children quality shoes at all, which is ridiculous. But wait, the human race is full of many creative people, and some of them continue to create the most absurd lines of reasoning, such as Stephen Aquino. Now my man Stephen believes that labeling MrBeast as ableist is the correct course of action, and for those who don't know what ableist means, there's a version of racism now, but for disabled people, and guess who's not only a colonizer but also discriminates against the disabled? Jimmy. Curing disabilities is apparently reinforcing moral superiority on those who are disabled by those who aren't, and MrBeast's videos are not in favor of disabled people, rather in favor of those who aren't, and it sends the message that disabled people aren't normal. Apparently disabilities aren't a diabolical villain that needs to be eradicated, and instead should be celebrated, and we shouldn't try and raise the quality of life of those who have them. Disabilities are in no need for a cure, and instead we should try and pretend that disabled people have the same physical and in some cases mental capabilities as those who aren't disabled. I think all of these points are preposterous because not only does MrBeast present disability as a problem that limits the quality of life of millions around the world, but he goes around the world helping people of all backgrounds, emphasis on the people. His brand has always been about people and making their days better by helping them in different ways, and the unfortunate thing is, it's the far left that are criticizing his mission and acts of objective good, yet none of them will ever achieve anywhere near the level of philanthropy MrBeast is at. If MrBeast gives you a car, for instance, well, you might have to pay $5,000 in taxes just to keep the government from throwing you in jail. How awful that is. MrBeast is essentially forcing people into debt servitude as they have to fork out their own cash in order to pay the taxes for these gifts. Except MrBeast offers to buy back every single gift he gives you for its face value, so instead of a $30,000 car, you can just get the $30,000 if you want, and then there's no problem at all. But what's the real reason behind all of this hate and virtue signaling? Looking at most of the people arguing with MrBeast's philanthropy, it's clear they have a victim mentality and are a slave to their own lives. jealousy, plain and simple, for those who have succeeded and acquired money into the millions. But unlike MrBeast, there's also those who do literally build their wealth by exploiting others. Check out this video here on CoffeeZilla, the guy exposing frauds like Logan Paul. See you there.